Welcome back. So, if you haven't guessed by the title already, I'm going to take you through exactly how I have made my fat loss ridiculously easy. Like, so fucking easy. So, before I started this fat loss phase, I wouldn't say I was worried, because obviously I knew I could do it, but I was expecting this to be really, really tough. Now, I am entering the last 6 weeks of fat loss, 6.5 weeks of fat loss, I should say, so things are going to start to get a lot more difficult. You know, hunger's probably going to start to set in a little bit more. Training's not going to feel quite as good. Energy won't be as good. You know, all the rest of it. But I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this for 11 weeks now. I've dropped nearly 30 pounds, so I've dropped over 2 stone. And this has just been so fucking easy. So fucking easy. Like, I can't describe to you how much easier I found this than I expected to. I thought I was going to be feeling like shit every single day. I thought I was going to be miserable. I thought I was going to be craving certain foods all the time. I thought I couldn't be arsed, and all this sort of stuff, and training was going to be terrible. Guys, it's been so fucking easy. So easy. And this isn't like, oh, look at me, I'm fucking solid, I find fat loss easy, blah, blah. Like, I'm a PT, but I'm also just a normal human, and this is also the first time that I've ever done a long fat loss phase with a coach before. Yes, I've done them myself, pretty unsuccessfully in the past. I've been bulking for the last 2 and a bit years, and then obviously we're doing a big photo shoot prep now. This is the first time that I've ever done a cut like this, so it's actually my first time experiencing it, and it's been so interesting to see how much easier it's been. Number one has obviously been being smart with nutrition and fluid intake. Now, what I do in the morning is every single morning, obviously wake up, just hydrate like normal, water, salt, creatine. First thing, there's nothing special about that whatsoever. What I've started to do as I've started to get towards the end of this fat loss phase is push my training sessions to a little bit later in the day. So I was training at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning once the gym's absolutely dead, but I'm now training sort of 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Either 11 o'clock in the morning or 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, somewhere between there. Because what it's allowing me to do is push my first meal back a little bit. And when I'm pushing my first meal back a little bit, what I can then do is condense the window down for how many hours I have of the day where I'm eating, and that means that I'm not going to bed hungry. Now, because I'm not going to bed hungry, I'm obviously sleeping significantly better, and because I'm sleeping significantly better, my ghrelin and my leptin, which are my hormones that tell me that I'm hungry and tell me that I'm full, are regulated much better because I'm sleeping better. Stress is also a lot lower because I'm sleeping better. So pushing the meals back towards the end of the day has been helping so much, because everybody knows you can be really good all the way through the day, stick to the plan, and then the evening time comes around and obviously you've started to crave more foods. That's mainly because dopamine's quite high within the morning. As the day goes on, dopamine gets lower and lower. You sat in front of the TV, you've had a hard day at work or whatever it might be, and then you're sitting there and you're snacking and you're doing all this sort of stuff. So condensing my meals down and pushing my sessions a little bit later in the day has been a really big one. If you train in the morning, you might just have to accept the fact that you're going to have to start eating earlier. Maybe you just go to bed a little bit earlier, so you have a smaller window of eating. But again, if you're somebody who can train later in the day, definitely recommend pushing your meals back. Now, the other thing, this meal is going to look absolutely disgusting. I can't really show you properly there, but I've got some chicken, potatoes, and just some mixed veg in there. That meal looks particularly boring because it took me about fucking 5 minutes to prep in the air fryer. I didn't have very much time this morning. Self-employed life. So, but I still got the meals prepped, obviously, but it just looks a bit shit. So, making sure that every single meal that you have has protein, a good amount of fiber, and the biggest thing for me, genuinely, has been swapping things out like rice and pasta, mainly. Not every single meal, but most of our meals are potatoes instead of rice and pasta, because they're a lot more filling, they've got a lot more volume, and they also have fiber and a lot of more micronutrients as well. So you're going to feel fuller, and you're going to make sure that you're hydrated, because there's a lot of potassium and magnesium inside of potatoes as well. So making sure that I'm hydrated, obviously. A really big one has been these bad boys. Pepsi Max, caffeine free. I just have the caffeine free one, so my caffeine intake doesn't go through the fucking roof. I've been having in the morning, obviously, generally 2 coffees in the morning. If I feel like I need the boost, if I haven't slept very well, or if I just feel like I want one because I've got a lot more work on, probably have an energy drink like a Monster, or potentially even a 3rd coffee as well. You don't have to have that much. Right, so don't let your head fall off, right? But you don't have to have that much. But caffeine is an appetite suppressant, so it's really helpful to have that to kind of make you not feel quite as hungry. So generally for me, morning routine would be wake up. I wake up at about 6:30, in between 6:30 and 7 o'clock most days. And that's because that's just naturally when I wake up. That's naturally where I feel great, and I don't have to force myself to get up super early. I normally end up working till about 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, so getting up at that time just works really well for my schedule. Really, really well. And again, it makes sure that I always get around anywhere between 7 to 8 hours usually. Sometimes I get 6, but it's only around 7 to 8 hours of sleep, which is great for me. So I'll wake up at 6:30 to 7 o'clock, have my caffeine, so generally my first coffee around 20 minutes after I wake up. And then round about 10 o'clock, I'll have another coffee, and then I'll generally have another one round about 12 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That really just carries me through until my first meal, and then I can generally just fit around 4 meals in between 12 o'clock-ish and roughly 8 to 9 o'clock, depending on what time I finish work. So doing that has made everything ridiculously easy. In terms of actually making sure I'm in a good calorie deficit, outside of the nutrition, activity being high, now, what I'm also doing is using the steps that I'm getting as a really good opportunity to give myself a little bit of time to regulate my nervous system, basically get myself to a point where outside, I'm walking a little bit, and I'm obviously like not really using my phone quite as much. Maybe if I'm like, replying to a couple of client messages and things, but I try and have that as a time of day where I just get outside and I, don't use my phone and don't work and things like that. It's a really good opportunity to get myself out and actually think, potentially even be creative and have an original thought for once. And then, yeah, like I said, just making sure that I'm keeping my activity high, minimum 10,000 steps every single day. As prep's gone on, my energy's got a little bit lower, and also work has been incredibly fucking busy over the last couple of weeks. So my steps have gone down to probably on average about 11 to 12,000 a day, whereas they were about 13 to 14. But again, weight's still dropping down pretty easily. I've probably been dropping on average around 2.5 pounds a week for the last 10 weeks. And other than that, guys, it's also, a lot of you might end up fucking turning the video off at this point, but a lot of it is literally just a mindset thing. Regulating your emotions around food and understanding that if you have a certain goal that you want to work towards, then sometimes things have to be given up. Now, the most important thing that you can do before you start a fat loss phase is make sure that you go into it with an actual, one, a really clear goal on what you're actually trying to achieve, and two, the expectations for what's required to get there. So my goal is pretty extreme. I'm going to be well under 10% body fat, which is like dick skin fucking shredded, right? I'm going to be very lean. I'm going to have to go pretty extreme over the next couple of weeks to be able to get to that level. Most of you that are watching this aren't going to want to do that. Some of you might want to do a photo shoot, which is fucking great, but most of you are probably just going to want to get lean and maybe see a little bit of visible abs for the summer. Now, depending on the time frame that you give yourself to do that, obviously depends on how much you're going to have to give up. Now, I knew that this was a 19 to 20 week deficit diet that I'm on with a couple of small diet breaks in there. I'm at a point now where, like, I am starting to feel very low energy. My ability to form sentences isn't amazing because I've been in a deficit for so long. I've got headaches sometimes just because I'm a little bit fucking tired from being at a deficit of energy for such a long time. That is completely normal for the stage that I'm at. I've been dieting for 12 weeks now with not very many diet breaks at all, like literally like 3 days off the whole time. But if you are someone who's obviously just trying to get to see some visible abs for the summer, and you give yourself a good, decent time frame to be able to do that, and you're happy to lose the weight a little bit slower, that's totally fine. You're going to be able to work more social occasions and things like that in. If you give yourself a really short time frame and you want to get really lean, well, then you're going to have to give up a lot and you're going to have to be more aggressive. You're probably going to have to add in some cardio on the stepper. You're probably going to have to do more steps than you would like to. You're probably going to have to, potentially give up watching TV on an evening. You're probably going to have to eat less food, things like that. Having that expectation of what's actually required to achieve your goal is really important. Like, I knew coming into this, I wasn't really going to have any social occasions at all for the next 19 and 20 weeks. I knew that I was going to have to give up alcohol completely. I knew that I was going to have to do a shit ton of cardio. I knew that I was going to have to do a shit ton of steps. I knew that I was going to be hungry, which honestly hasn't really been a massive issue for me yet. I knew my energy was going to be low. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to go out for meals every weekend. I knew that was going to happen. I was prepared for it. And because I was prepared for it and I knew exactly what was required to get to my goal, there was no disappointment or there was no humming and hawing on a weekend. Should I go out? Should I have this? Should I have that chocolate bar? Should I have that takeaway? Should I yada yada yada? Because I know what's required to get to my goal. Like, yes, I've had the donuts and stuff. If you watch my Instagram, my YouTube over the last couple of weeks, I've been having that sort of stuff. But I knew exactly what was required to get to where I needed to be. And like I said, there's been no disappointment and nothing like kind of curveball at me to surprise me to say that I can't have certain foods or whatever it might be. So it's, like I said, the most important thing is that you go into it with an actual realistic expectation and also a goal. Planning the diet breaks has been a really big one for me. As I mentioned, I said 3 days. I think it's actually 4 now that I think of it. So during this entire time, I've had 2 weekends off of the diet. One when I went away to the lakes, and then one when I was just at home chilling. They have been incredible for me. Now, things are moving very quickly right now, very smoothly. And I'm pretty sure I've got another diet break coming up on the 18th, which will be like pretty much exactly 31 days, like a month out from my shoot, which will be a really big psychological boost for me because I know I'm going to be able to go out for a social occasion and have food. And what that does is it really just allows you to de-stress, kind of get rid of the quote-unquote food noise. Obviously, it's not an excuse to just go and eat loads of shit and completely derail all of your progress, but giving yourself an opportunity to go and have the foods that you really want and that you potentially crave and just gives you that kind of like reduction in mental stress and psychological fatigue and also physical fatigue. It's also a good time to probably take a slight step back from training, reduce your volume a little bit, and just get rid of, you know, all of the stress and the shit that you've been holding on to while you've been in the deficit. If it's not such an extreme goal, you probably don't need them quite as often. You maybe don't even need them at all, but if you're trying to get pretty lean, definitely plan some diet breaks in there. And the most important thing, actually have a fucking time frame for when you're going to be working towards your fat loss. Don't just go, I'm going to lose fat. Actually have a time frame, 8, 12, 16, 20 weeks, whatever it might be. And if you are going to be doing a more aggressive one, make sure you pre-plan your diet breaks in. That's incredibly important, as I said, because it's, say for example, if you're having a diet break 8 weeks into your fat loss phases, and you're 6 weeks in and you're starting to get a little bit hungry and you're craving foods and yada, 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 you know that you've only got another week and a half, 2 weeks to go, and then you can have all those foods again for the week off. But always make sure that if you do a diet break, you're at maintenance. But yeah, I mean, them are basic tips. Like, I use these with every single one of my clients. I've obviously used it myself. And like I said, yes, I feel a little bit tired and I feel a little bit hungry sometimes, but it's nothing major. Nothing that's going to kill me. So yeah, use those tips, because they're all pretty basic and none of them are extreme in my opinion whatsoever. I've not been doing anything that's crazy to get in the shape that I'm on. I'm still on 2,400 calories on a training day, 2,000 calories on a rest day. And because I've kept activity high and I've been consistent as fuck, I've not missed a beat the entire time. Things are happening. So yeah, it's crazy what happens when you just stick to the plan. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one.